seen the transformation from 19th century education to the 21st century education. And I've lived it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sharon Campbell, and I have a vision. I see the future of education, and every American has a college education. And on that day, the President of the United States is going to shout to his cabinet from the White House Oval Office bathroom. What do you mean there's no more plumbers? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sharon Campbell, and welcome to my world. Now, imagine yourself a wiggly, giggly, or sullen 12-year-old. You walk through a classroom door, and you find yourself in the belly of a spaceship careening through space. Planets coming at you from the screen as you sit down. The lights begin to dim. You know something exciting is going to happen. The sun comes into focus on the screen in back of the control center, and class begins. Today's mission is spectrography, and man's ability to inspect distant objects in our night sky and the effect of color on human biology. Pick up a pair of glasses on your desk, and through their special lenses, you'll be able to see through the eye of a Hubble telescope. You'll notice that you are not seeing the color just blazing orange and gold, but you'll be able to see a rainbow of colors, decipherable as the basic elements of our universe. You are learning the elements of the physical universe. You are experiencing the building blocks of the universe while learning color theory in my world. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in experience, not in lectures. And so, please share with me the first man and woman mission to Mars. You'll probably need to know a little bit about me to be able to understand what I'm doing in my classroom. I got into education about 30 years ago, and it was a one ad that taught me in. It said, crew manager wanted. Your responsibility will be training incarcerated and probationary youth between the ages of 13 and 18. You will be given 12 weeks to train them in a useful trade. Optimists only apply. I was fully qualified. I was an optimist, and I was the only one who applied. Every morning, I would come to the hall in my pink covered balls, my big work boots, 14 sack lunches, and a van full of manual tools. We would go out, we would paint, plant, prune, and graft all through Napa County. And the funniest thing happened, 2 weeks into the program, I fell in love with these kids. And as they were shoveling, and as we were cleaning paint up that we had slopped on the ground, they talked. And I had my own shovel, I had my own paintbrush. But I was smart enough to listen. And what I learned is people learn best by doing. 2, that when anyone is physically engaged, they are intellectually approachable. I learned that it's more profitable to start the day with a joke or a conversation than with a lecture, and that I can teach anything. Banking, resume writing with a stick, a smooth piece of sand, and a sandwich in one hand. This was the most wonderful summer of my life, but 12 weeks just goes by. The job was over. the school year, about 2 weeks, I got this telephone call, this frantic voice saying, "Juvenile Hall School mutinied yesterday, and one of my boys had threatened the teacher, and she was threatening never to come back. Could I come and restore order?" Well, I stomped into the hall, but the second I walked through that classroom door, I knew I was home. So, after serving my 1 year in juvenile hall, what I found was so apparent is that every child can learn, but at his speed, in his language, and for these special students, they need to hold it in their hand. They need to be able to twist it. They need to be able to turn it. They need to be able to touch it with their tongue. But I am absolutely amazed that once they figure it out, it's theirs forever. And I have to say, that is the bottom line of everything I believe. You know, it's been 30 years since I worked with these students, but I'm still in contact with them. These seemingly difficult students are now the men and women that are keeping your world running. One's a plumber, one's the head mechanic at the Campbell suit company. I have one that is an electrician. Amadeus is the general manager of a Safeway store in Los Gatos. Carl is a welder and inventor, and one of them is the CEO of his own company that he owns. After my year, I decided I needed to do something for these unreached but very reachable youngsters. And I felt like it needed to be done in middle school before they became part of these alternative programs. So I found a middle school willing to hire a mechanically inclined artist with a degree in humanities and art. This is the classroom I inherited. I just said that I was mechanically inclined, so they gave me the room that had everything broken. Now, I chose to become the art teacher because every difficult child and every student that is struggling and failing ends up sitting in the art classroom. We all know that. Well, what I found out, it wasn't heaven for me in that place. 180 students rather than those 14 that I loved. I would come home at night after feeling as though I wanted to throw my keys inside that classroom and pull that locked door shut and never go back. For an entire year. Come the end of the year, I'm about ready to say, I'm not coming back next year. And all of a sudden it dawned on me why I got into teaching. I had become an art teacher rather than a student educator. And there's a big difference. So from that point on, for the students failing or not failing, I began integrating the academic curriculum into my art curriculum. Art is history. It's physics, it's chemistry, it's the recording of the best and the worst of mankind, which is the perfect segue into character development and ethics. The students, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, all bloomed. I began to love my job. The years passed, and I still love my job, but it became more and more difficult for me to walk in the door in the morning to this brown, concrete floored warehouse with 50-year-old World War II surplus furniture and broken equipment. So the last day of school with brooms, buckets, gallons of paint, and $14,000 of our money, the student union's money, the credit union's money. My husband and I gutted the warehouse. We scrubbed and painted the ceilings, floors, walls, and doors, bought furniture, bought computers, and bought a state-of-the-art theater system. We dreamed of creating a classroom that invited students in and made them want to stay. We dreamed of having every project a hands-on activity and the curriculum being student, not teacher-based. And the first day of that school year, the RMS Space Academy was opened. Okay. Our Space Academy is a scenario based on the first manned and woman mission to Mars in the year 2014. And on that first day of school, the students began that 9-month journey together. The students started working in small, independent groups. They created their own manifesto of self-defined rules and expectations, and they were much more stringent than mine would have ever been. They created and designed and built their own ensigns, spacesuits, and identification bracelets within the first 2 weeks. And what that allowed me to do is the students became responsible, and they were given the responsibility and the privilege of running the classroom. And that allowed me to just simply provide the direction, the resources, and I could facilitate the discussions, which meant I got to spend all my time teaching, which is what every teacher wants. But the years passed. As good as the program was, there was something missing. Now, the students, as our spaceship was created through space, were learning art and humanities, science, and how to field dress mice with their teeth. They were becoming leaders. They were becoming responsible and self-disciplined. So what was missing? Well, every year in month 3, our spaceship, this is canned comets. We are hit by a comet shower, but this year we lost all the power except our life support system, which is the heat, light, and air. Now, the students at this point faced the next rest of the year without their electronic toys. They nearly panicked. So how are we going to solve this problem, no power, within our self-contained spaceship? Well, we talked about it, and we dreamed about it, and we decided we were going to use our exercise bike to create electricity. So we found out that the parts were going to be very expensive. So together, the students and I wrote the grant to Mars and back on Kid Power. By George, we won. We won the British Petroleum A+ for Energy grant. Now, it's never that easy. I ended up getting a taste of experience-based education myself. That July, in the hottest week of the California year, I found myself in Los Angeles at the Edison Power Control Complex in Los Angeles, attending a mandatory national education energy department workshop. And if you ever get a chance to go to a NEED workshop, go. They're free. You get great things for your kids. And I had to attend that workshop before they gave me the check. Now, by the third day, it was 103 degrees. They shut off the air conditioning. They turned off the lights because they were taking electricity. So they took us into a large, dark building, and one whole entire wall was an illuminated state of California map. As we were taken in there, our instructor explained to us, our instructor and this guy who seemed to own the building, that the residual heat and the use of air conditioning throughout California the night before had created such a heat load that this big, huge gauge that was underneath the map had already gone from green to the yellow and it was halfway through red. People were standing around on telephones, and they were trying to purchase and outbid other states to buy the hydroelectric energy from Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Nevada. Yeah, but still, that gauge began to climb. By 1 o'clock, there was just the barest bit of red still showing. The state of California turned off the air conditioning in all of its buildings and dimmed the lights. With no more energy to be purchased, the telephone calls were now going out to the large manufacturers, and they were being promised that if they could cut their energy consumption by 50% in the next 30 minutes, they were being promised hundreds of thousands of dollars in energy purchase credits just by being able to turn it around. But the gauge inched up even higher. Now we could see a dip when maybe one of the states fed a little energy in, and a quiver if one of those mega users said they will cut back. But it still continued to climb. So finally, a handful of people with their eye on the gauge, on the clock, and on the map began to shut down the power of California. With a nod, lit areas on the map became dark as communities were cut from the grid. They were doing a delicate balance, keeping that one little sliver of red showing. Finally, as we all held our breath and watched, the minute hand swept past 4 o'clock, and we began to see a very, very gradual downward sweep of the hand as the industry began its nightly shutdown. I found myself in the back of the room in a cold sweat. I had watched California run out of power, and I, at that moment, became an energy conservation zealot. And I knew what was missing from my classroom. It was purpose, and we had found purpose. I flew home that night, and my husband, a mechanical engineer, began designing and building what we called the kid power cycle. And by the time school was in session, it was up and running. Now, I told my students the story just like I told you today, but without keywords. Within 2 weeks, they renamed our starship, and it became, and was rechristened, the Redwood Middle School RMS Energy Star. They began, instead of pinching Amy and gossiping about Joseph, the young men and women began pedaling their bicycle until their legs began to quiver and burn. They had 5 minutes. They were testing themselves against the time. And what happened is we were able to provide enough electricity to power 3 computers, the entire theater system, and an oxygen generator. Now, the students wanted to do even more. So they decided that they were going to give away 10,000 compact fluorescent light bulbs to the Napa Valley. Now, these are 11 and 12-year-olds, and they believe all things are possible. And they never for one moment doubted that I could make 10,000 light bulbs appear in thin air just like that. So I was afraid I was going to have to disappoint them and sort of downgrade their project. And that's when I met Ian, the light bulb fairy. He somehow talked the Sylvania Bulb Company into donating 1,000 bulbs. And not only that, he flew them from the East Coast to San Francisco, loaded them in a rented van, and delivered them to the back door of my classroom. And not only that, he talked Sylvania into, if we could distribute those 1,000 bulbs by the end of the month, they'd give us the other 9,000. It took my 180 students 2 days to distribute all those bulbs. So we got ready for the big day. The kids planned. They went to food banks, they went to grocery stores, they went to senior centers, and got ready to set up man booths. The big day came. A moving truck came and filled our warehouse from floor to ceiling, halfway full of light bulbs. It took 180 students 1 week to label, package, and deliver the other 9,000 light bulbs. And that was only the first year. Students from that point on chose their own social issues and defined their own purpose. We had students that went ahead and created infomercials, television broadcasts, provided fresh fruits and vegetables for the community. Now, I believe that I'm having another vision. I see an alternate future for education. What about we give the students the tools, have them develop a purpose, and why don't we get out of their way? Isn't that truly the goal of education? Thank you.